If you've been going around the good old internet looking for the right podcast to fulfill your New York Yankees needs, well, I'll be the first to deliver the good news to you. You have found it. Here on Yapping Yankees with me, your host, Mike Scudero, you and I will be discussing the latest news, takes, and talk throughout the entire Yankee universe. Oh, and there may be some ranting on my behalf. Yeah. Anyway, what do you say we get to it? Let's get to yapping! Well, hello there, my fellow Yankee fans, and welcome to episode 233 of the Yapping Yankees podcast. As always, I am your host, Mike Scudero, your friendly neighborhood Yankee yapper with the best yap in all the land, here on the first day of September of the year 2024 with another extra large order of the Yappuccino for you. Wow. Wowie, wow is all I have to say. After watching the game that just concluded here today. Wow.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, you take your pick on where you want to begin. I just started recording right after the game ended. It's barely 5 o'clock right now. It's now a beautiful day here in New York after the day started off beyond crappy with it raining in the morning and then the rain returning in the afternoon, which I'm sure you saw if you watched the Yankee game, because torrential rain was just one little factor of today's, I'm honestly not even sure if the word roller coaster scratches the surface. I don't know. All I know is that today has been one bizarre day, man, in Yankee land. Wow. I don't even know where to begin. Do you start with the bullpen? Do you start with the torrential rain? Do you start with the botched supposed hit and run by Judge with Soto running in the first, like half running down to second base, which would make me believe that Judge was either distracted or missed a sign for a potential hit and run? I wouldn't really understand why, because even if you did miss the sign, why you wouldn't go after the pitch that he took, because the pitch was asking to be hit 750 feet. But whatever. You could talk about Soto not knowing where that fly ball was in the earlier part of the game. He ran in, and then he ran back, and the ball ended up being off the bottom of the wall, and you also had the seventh inning where some people are blaming him for the Cardinals' 5-run rally, even though the bullpen thought it was okay to have Cousins come in and not throw strikes to start the inning, and then Canely getting absolutely body slammed with multiple hard hits to the wall. Granted, he's actually been good for a while now. Otherwise, all after, again, the offense mounted an awesome 5-run comeback after being down 7-2 originally. They were down 1-0, then they took a 2-1 lead, then they were down 7-2, mounted the comeback, had that train wreck of the 7th inning, where after being down 7-2, mounting a comeback, tying the game at 7, and after all that, you have the bullpen making a mess of things with a touch of bad defense sprinkled into there, leads to the Yankees again being down by 5, 12-7. Which wasn't even the final score. It was actually even worse than that. All of that, just in the game alone, especially after all the emotion surrounding Jasson Dominguez not being called up from AAA today, with rosters expanding and all the other roster moves being made alongside that. I know, Vader. Trust me, I know. We'll get to that in a bit during Yankees news. It's been a day. It has been a day in the Yankee universe, my friends. You could take whichever point you want and start from there. It would probably be valid. I don't know. In case you can't tell, I'm kind of at a loss for words myself. Today's game is very fresh at this point. At the time I'm recording right now, it literally just ended a matter of minutes ago. I could literally start this from any point that I want. I could talk about today's game alone, even though we mostly just went through all of it with the gist of everything. I could talk about how the Yankees can't seem to get on a roll when it comes to putting together more than one win in a row. I can talk about playing down to bad teams. Which one would you like me to start with? I mean, I prefer to start with none of those because they all suck. But I'm going to have to start with one of them. I mean, we're already just about 5 minutes into the show here, and we have just barely scraped the main subject matters for the day. Oh my gosh. Yeah, to say the least, I'm not a very happy person today. I'm really not. I don't really know what to expect of these guys anymore. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about which Yankee team are you going to get and how it changes from day to day. Well, it's still doing that. And then last week, we were talking about how they actually managed to take a series against just about the only good team that they've played throughout the entire month of August, more or less, in the Guardians. And they were just, even though I would have liked for them to have swept them because they're absolutely awful, especially away from Coors Field, they were just winning a series against the Rockies last Sunday when we last spoke. So actually just having finished up a pretty decent week last week, winning 2 series again. But then this week, once again, playing down to bad teams, just win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. In a month that should have been a time period where the Yankees really should have just taken control of their own destiny here. It's just gotten really bizarre. Every single day, you're seeing a different Yankee team out there again, occasionally at times making the most rookie of mistakes and doing the most frustrating of things, when just the day before they were looking just about unbeatable. The whiplash is enough to have your head pop right off of your shoulders. I mean, just after the National Series, if you want to talk about how the Yankees are playing against bad teams, or I guess not playing, you could equally say, before this weekend began against the Cardinals, who were coming in with a barely 500 record themselves, now leaving with over a 500 record after the Yankees just played the brilliant baseball they just got done playing. Coming into the series, I saved these statistics that were given on Twitter because I thought you'd find them interesting, and really telling a big story here. But against sub-500 teams, the Yankees are 24-20. 24-20. Barely a 500 record against bad teams. Against 500 or better teams, they were 54-36. So what does this tell you? This tells you that the Yankees are not doing what they're supposed to do against teams where they should be taking care of business. This is why, right here, this is why I go in on this subject every single freaking year. Every year. And people always tune me out during it saying, oh, it's not that important. Yes, it is. Listen up, folks. Beating the bad teams during a regular season is just as important, and if not just as important, maybe slightly less, but still very important in the grand scheme of things, it is still almost at the very least as important as beating the good teams, because they are still a big part of your schedule. You're probably going to be seeing a lot more mid or bad teams throughout your time of a 162-game schedule than you are going to see good teams. A lot of the time. And when you do get them, you've got to take care of business, especially if you're like the Yankees in a hunt for first place, in an intense hunt for first place against the Orioles, who themselves are not playing their best brand of baseball, but neither are the Yankees. That's why they can't seem to get ahead of each other. Even when one goes up by 2.5, 3 games, the other one seems to catch up instantaneously because one of them is still losing plenty of games. After the Orioles beat the Rockies today, let me see if they've even won already. I don't know if that game is wrapped up as of yet. But if they have, then they're just separated by a half a game. Yeah, the Rockies have a little bit of a rally going in the bottom of the ninth right now, but it's 6-1 Orioles. The Orioles are going to wrap that up. So only a half a game dividing them. So at one point earlier in the week, the Yankees had a 2.5 game lead on them. And here we are again on Sunday with only about a half a game about to be dividing them. So we're landing every single week at just about the same point with these two teams just remaining gridlocked, that close at the top of the American League East. And as long as the Yankees do not do what they're supposed to do, it's going to stay like that. You can't win when you're talking about the Yankees against bad teams in this fan base, or even in other fan bases especially, because the Yankees beat a bad team. They say, oh, well, good for them. They did what they were supposed to do. But then if they lose to a bad team, then everybody clowns on them anyway. Just beat the bad teams. In the eyes of many, especially people who don't root for the Yankees and hate them, the irrational ones, they'll laugh at the Yankees no matter what. They'll laugh at them if they beat them because they say, oh, they're supposed to beat them. They'll laugh at them if they lose to them because they say, oh my God, you lost to a bad team, you guys suck. So it doesn't matter. Ignore all that noise. Listen to what I'm saying. What I've said for years now. People have got to stop downplaying the importance of beating bad teams. You've got to beat the bad teams, especially if you have nearly an entire month's worth of a schedule like the Yankees just got done having throughout most of the month of August, where you're getting bad team after bad team after bad team after bad team lining up one after the other. You've got to take care of business against them. And the Yankees have not done that, folks. They have done anything but do that. Coming into the Cardinals series again, 24-20 against sub-500 teams. They were barely at a 500 record coming in, only separated by about a game or so. And now, as of today, they even dropped the series to them. You factor all of this in with even the way that they're losing. Factor all this in with the fact that the Nationals, who they just lost a series to earlier in the week before the Cardinals, managed to actually drop a series to a team who had more double plays than hits with runners in scoring position. This was a team that almost ran themselves into a triple play with runners on first and second after a hit off the outfield wall. Almost ran themselves into a triple play. And you might wonder, why many of us Yankee fans go damn near feral so often this year with this team. I know you do have to keep a degree of perspective. You do have to keep a degree of it, because even if it's only by about a game or a half a game right now, the Yankees do still own the best record in the American League. There are a couple of teams by about a game or two now in the National League that have passed them. The Brewers, one of the new ones now. The Dodgers still. The Phillies are still in the mix as well. So you have that. But in the American League, the Yankees are still the top team, even if by a half a game or a game. They still are. So you got to keep that perspective. It's also a matter of, Michael Kay was talking about this on the broadcast today, too. It's a matter of whether you're a glass half full or a glass half empty sort of a person. You can take whichever perspective you want. For the sake of remaining balanced, I will say that and keep that mindset and mention it here, that you do still have to keep the perspective that despite all the crap that the Yankees put us through every other day, they are still the top team in the American League into the month of September. So that's the plus. But the things that make people go feral, again, is what I just mentioned, one example of many against the Nationals. And you drop a series like that against a team like that amidst a race for first place in the American League East that, after the Orioles win this game right now against the Rockies, is still going to only be divided by a half a game. Going 14-12 in August, what I just got done talking about, a month where the vast majority of the series you had were against bad teams, and you're lucky for that, because August is oftentimes a struggle for everybody. The dog days of August, they call it. You're the Yankees. You had an easier schedule, and you go 14-12, continuing to play down to bad teams. You lose a 12-2 sham against a White Sox team making a run to be the worst team in the history of Major League Baseball. In the history of it. You drop a series to Detroit. Then you actually win a series against the only actual good team in Cleveland, like we mentioned. You don't sweep the Rockies either, a putrid team, like I said before, especially away from Coors Field, because you got to keep pitching Will freaking Warren. You drop a series against the Nationals, as we just got done talking about, and now to the Cardinals, embarrassingly so today. In the last 8 series, my friends, they're 12-12. And with that 14-12 August record that I just got done telling you, that does not include today, since obviously it's September 1st today. But now, as of today, they're 14-13 with the loss against the Cardinals in their last 27. Win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And, by the way, win, loss. In a time period with the schedule that, as we've constantly spoken about, you could have ran away with this thing. Win, loss. Start and stop. They say it's not good for a car to do that, and it's probably not the best strategy for winning a division either. You just can't put a win streak together. You can't get on a roll here. Always stalling. Win, loss, back, forth. We said last week it was the title of the episode. Keep your foot on the gas. Haven't been able to. I swear, it feels like they haven't won more than 2 games in a row in like a month and a half. Just can't get on a roll. I mean, let's just go back to the start of August for the hell of it. Let's see. Go back to, like, the Angels series. Let's see here. Yeah, so you got the Angels. They had a doubleheader on the 7th. Won one, lost one. Then they lost the next day. Then they had another doubleheader against the Rangers after that. That was the week where all that rain was rolling into New York. Doubleheader against the Rangers. Win, loss. Won the next day. Then they went to Chicago. Lost 12-2. Then they won 2 in a row. There's 2. Okay. Then you got actually starting the series against the Tigers was 3-0, so that was another win. So actually 3 in a row. That was the one time they did it, I guess. 17th, they lost 4-0. And then the Sunday, they lost 2 again. So then you won 3, lost 2. So then you had the 12-inning game against the Guardians on Tuesday the 20th. You lost that one. Okay, so even though they did win 3 in a row, then they lost 3 in a row. So 1 step forward, 1 step back, or 3 steps forward, 3 steps back, I guess you could say. Then they won the next 2 against the Guardians, won 1 more against the Rockies, fine. So then they lost against the Rockies again, won against the Rockies, won against the Nationals, lost 2 in a row to the Nationals, won against the Cardinals, lost against the Cardinals, lost against the Cardinals. So it's just constant. You might get a couple of wins here and there, but then you're just going to get the losses to equal that. It's just win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Back and forth. Constant stalling, start and stop. That's the theme of Yankees baseball over the last month. Start and stop. Not being able to get on a roll, not keeping your foot on the gas, and that's why that is the theme for today's episode. And not that I want to get on them, but I do have to mention it because they're a big part of the Yankees and their success when they are succeeding. But this past week, it did not help anything, having Juan Soto and Aaron Judge going especially quiet, especially Aaron Judge. I cannot get on either of them because they are what they are, and they've meant what they've meant to this Yankee team throughout the entire season. You can mention their wrongdoings and mention that they are in a slump, but to get irrationally frustrated with them and claim that they suck or this or that, I mean, that's just not going to happen here. If you want to hear somebody else talk like that, then go to that somebody else. You're not going to hear that here. I'm going to merely mention that they're going through struggles and hope that it corrects itself, because anytime the Yankees are experiencing their success, those two are usually the ones right in the middle of it. And it's going to be tougher for this team if those two are slumping. Soto did have his rough day in the field in this afternoon's game. Obviously, on the whole this year, Soto has actually been a pleasant surprise in the outfield because throughout most of his career, he has actually not been the best fielder. I would say this is definitely amongst his best fielding seasons throughout his career. Without just looking at the statistics right away, I'd be shocked if it wasn't. He's been a pleasant surprise out there. But today, he had a rough day. That fly ball to right field earlier in the game that he didn't have a read on for even a second, he ran in, then ran back, and it was all over the place, hit the bottom of the wall. And then in the 7th inning, I know that first hard hit ball that Canely gave up, some people are saying, oh, it had a 75% catch probability. Well, still leaves 25% for error. It happens. And plus, maybe Canely, who again, I want to mention, has been very good for a while now, but maybe he shouldn't be giving rockets up that are making it all the way to the wall. There's a tough play either way. And they were saying he was positioned too shallow to begin with. Well, that's a positioning issue. So, you had a rough day like that. Had a hit or two today, so that's good. But otherwise, especially in the entire Washington series, Soto took an 0-for throughout the entire series, so that wasn't good. And Aaron Judge, in his last bunch of days this past week, has also done little to nothing. He had that incredible home run robbing double play in the outfield in Washington, that was incredible. But other than that, not much happened for Judge at all either. We were just talking about last week. He hit like 7 home runs in 1 week. He hasn't hit a single one this week. It happens. That's the ups and downs of baseball. But, that's allowed on an individual basis for guys who have done the vast majority of the carrying for months and months now. And it was good to see the rest of the team picking up the slack today and mounting that crazy comeback. That was awesome to see. If only the bullpen did their jobs after that. And the bullpen actually has not been that bad of late, but they're showing shades of their bad habits again today. Just was not it for them at all. I mean, your team just mounted a remarkable comeback for you. Again, you were down 1-0. They come back and make it 2-1 because Stanton hit an absolute laser off of Michaelis, and then Jazz Chisholm Jr. creates his own run by catching the Cardinals sleeping, stealing third, and then the ball gets away and he comes home to score. It's 2-1, and the Cardinals just barrage you for a bunch more runs after that, partially thanks to the rain out there. It was torrential, yet they weren't calling a rain delay, and it came coming down like cats and dogs on more than one occasion in that inning, and then even a little bit later on in the game. Then the team slowly but surely actually mounts a comeback and ties the game at 7. Ties the game at 7. And then again, Cousins comes out, doesn't throw any strikes. Canely comes out, leaves a bunch of pitches down the middle, gets absolutely slammed for it. Absolutely shelled. Bad. Just can't, these things can't happen. Very irritating. Very, very, very irritating baseball being played here. And I'm sure for those people blaming Soto partially for the 7th inning, I'm sure you'll even hear, if you got to talk to them on a personal basis, of course, I'm sure you'd even hear the bullpen guys saying, well, listen, we got to pitch better. Because Canely was still giving up absolute lasers, regardless of catch probability. And Cousins wasn't throwing strikes. I mean, he walked Arenado to start the 7th inning right after the comeback was completed. You walked the first batter you faced right after that? Your team just came back down 5. I understand we're all human beings and we're not perfect, but throw strikes after your team just did that for you. What the hell's the matter with you?
Screw you.
Yeah, new sound effect. Johnny Lawrence from Cobra Kai. Yeah, screw you, exactly. They'd never admit it, but that's probably what some of the bats were thinking that really contributed to this comeback. Like, come back 5 runs and you just do that. Screw you. You give up all the runs right back and then some. Like, come on. Annoying day, man. Annoying. And the annoying part is that also, the game probably could have also been blown way open because Glaber hit that ball into the gap and Scott just made that unbelievable play in the right center field gap with the bases loaded. If that had gotten down, it probably would have cleared the bases for a 3-run double at the very least for Glaber. And that would have blown the game open at the time. And the Yankees could have really taken control of things, but that limited it to a sac fly. Tied the game at 7 instead of having the Yankees take a 9-7 lead and potentially adding on after that. So just a bunch of little things not working the Yankees' favor. Today's game was really weird. Just a bizarre day. Like I said, just really bizarre overall with the game, the way that things that happen in it. And even my mom's boyfriend, Jack, he was watching, and he was like, what a weird game and what a weird day. Like, even the weather, too, like torrential downpour. And now it's, like, beautiful out. So it's just weird. Just get the hell out of here with this Sunday, first day of September. Get out. Just get to September 2nd.
Get out!
Oh, God, we even got the get out guy now. I guess it's appropriate. Oh, my gosh, but what a weird day. Jesus. Gotta stop playing down to bad teams. Gotta stop. I mean, the Yankees got another bad one coming up next in the Rangers on the road, so you got another chance against a bad team. But then after that, it picks up a little bit in the month of September, like we've been talking about. Like, take advantage of it while it lasts, because it's not going to fully last like that forever. Like, they got the Cubs, who have been really stepping it up of late. They're now 5 games over 500. They've stepped it back up. You got the Royals after that. Then after the Royals, you got the Red Sox. Even though they're not the best, they're still a 500-plus team. Then you got the Mariners after that in Seattle. And you got the A's. The A's were surging for a little bit there, but you should still beat them. Although the Yankees never have an easy time out there, so who the hell knows what's going to happen. Then you got the Orioles after that. And you finish off against the Pirates, which they're not a great team. They fell off, but still, it's not nearly as easy a month as August was if you're looking ahead for the Yankees. And the Orioles do have an easier schedule than that. Now, the Orioles still themselves are not playing the best brand of baseball, just like the Yankees are, but that could change. There's still, 25-plus games remaining. And the Orioles do have a bit of an easier schedule than the Yankees do. So you got to consider these things going forward, and only a half a game divides them now, especially since, let me see here. Yeah, the Orioles did seal the deal in Colorado today, so back to a half a game lead in the AL East. That's it, and a lot of people might be taking for granted the playoff race here a little bit, because the Yankees, I do have to say, they got to be careful even where the wild card's concerned, because if they're going to be that close to the Orioles and possibly even surrender first place to them, listen to this. If they drop into the first wild card, you got the Twins and the Royals. That's also why the Royals are also kind of a big series coming up in about a week or two. But you have the Royals and the Twins only 4 games back of Baltimore, who were only a half a game back of the Yankees. And if the Royals take care of business against the Yankees when they face them at the stadium coming up, if they take care of business against the Yanks, and let's say the Orioles manage to take first place, even if it's only by about a game, then the Royals can get even within a couple of games of the Yankees, and the Yankees could even drop down a wild card spot. These are things that many people may not even be thinking about because they're so hyper-focused on the AL East. Well, let me put it in perspective for you. You should take a look at those standings for yourself, because the Yankees are 79-58 today, 21 games over 500. You got the Twins having a 74-62 record also, and the Royals being 75-63. They're not far off. These are things you got to keep track of. So that's what I'm saying here. Like with the Yankees being complacent against some of these bad teams and just saying, oh, next day, it's all good. Take care of business. Like, you got to be a little bit more urgent than that here. Especially because one of those teams I just mentioned, you got a head-to-head coming up against them by next week. I don't know. Am I the only one showing concern about even that? Is everybody just so hyper-focused on the American League East? You got the wild card teams not too far behind. Got to get our heads out of our asses a little bit here, boys and girls. And stop losing to bad teams. Part of that is not necessarily putting your best team out there, not putting your best foot forward, possibly. And there's some decisions being made here that aren't the best. And again, we'll talk about that in news with some of the roster moves that just took place this past week, particularly yesterday into today upon rosters expanding. But you also look at some of the performances of some other people out there, particularly today. We could start the starting rotation, I guess, because Nestor wasn't all that great today, despite Verdugo not catching that ball in left field in the earlier part of the game, resulting in 2 more runs when the Yankees were up 2-1. But you have Nestor not having a great start, only going 4 innings. You have Will Warren being absolutely putrid again yesterday. Once again, thank God he has been optioned. He cannot see the major leagues anymore in 2024. Just cannot happen. You have Rodon not pitching great in Washington at all, giving up 4 runs by the time the second inning is done. Saying, oh yeah, he settled down a little bit later. Yeah, but the damage is done. It's done. I don't care to hear about settling down when the damage is done already. Yeah, maybe he's eating up innings that the bullpen no longer has to pitch, but the damage is already done. Gave up 5 runs in less than 6 innings to a crap team. Then you have Cole looking okay, I guess, against the Nationals the day before that. So, big story this week, which basically the only example of solid starting pitching is Friday with Stroman against the Cardinals. 7 innings of 2-run ball. Did give up 9 hits, but still 7 innings of 2-run ball. Can't crap on that. And Nestor having his good outing on Monday against the Nationals. Really good outing. But then again, he had his outing today. Granted, it was in that inning that it was really bad in the 4th inning with the rain and everything, but still, didn't hold up. So starting pitching, not a great time around the rotation this past week. The bullpen didn't have too bad a week outside of today. Today was just god-awful, and there are plenty of moves that could and should be made out there that have not been made, with a number of guys that should not be on the team anymore, but it wasn't a brutal week for them at all outside of today. Today was just putrid. And you have the offense. Despite pitching not being the best necessarily all the time, they had their days where they pulled their disappearing acts again. I mean, earlier on in the week on Monday was a good day. They did enough. But then on Tuesday, to help Cole out, granted he just looked okay at best. I mean, they only scored 2 runs for him, didn't do much. Same thing on Wednesday, only 2 runs. Friday they did well, putting up a 6th spot. Yesterday they were dead for most of the game, with the exception of mounting that really nice almost comeback in the 8th inning and then not coming through in the 9th when Helsley could not get out of his own way and he had to throw Wells nothing but breaking balls, ultimately, unfortunately, striking him out. But scoring those 4 runs in the 8th inning, almost 5 if Stanton's ball just was a couple of feet higher, it would have been a game-tying grand slam. Pinch hit grand slam, no less. But, yeah, before that, just didn't do enough. And today, they actually did very nicely mounting that comeback before the bullpen just took a big, steaming hot crap all over it. So, give or take depending on the day, but going player by player, you had Gleyber Torres. Gleyber's actually still continued to do pretty well in the leadoff spot. We've spoken about that, despite how I feel about a guy personally as a player, and, you know, my desire to have him off the team for months now. I still come on this podcast and tell it like it is and give the facts and give the statistics. And the fact is that Gleyber Torres has settled into the leadoff spot decently. And we have spoken plenty about how the Yankees have needed more production out of that particular lineup slot. That, the cleanup spot throughout the vast majority of the year. So, if he keeps doing well there, then I guess don't interrupt the good thing. You had Juan Soto, who had a bit of a better weekend, I guess, but again, against the Nationals, he had a complete offer that entire series. It was not pleasant. So his homecoming to his first original team that he won a World Series against, did it get to his head? I don't know, possibly. I'm not quite sure, because it just did not look too great there at all. And because of the extreme lesser gameplay of this past week, his average has actually taken a bit of a hit, going down to 291 now from decently into the 300s. OPS is still over 1,000, but barely. He's still sitting at 37 home runs and 96 RBIs. So again, just not much moving in the sense of Soto and Judge this past week, as I mentioned before. They actually had a bit of a rough past week. They really did, and that's why you saw the Yankees, for the most part, probably play the week that they did. Because without them, it's just not as easy. And then Judge, again, like I mentioned, he's having a rough go at it. He's 6 for his last 25. Headed downwards a bit as of this past week, going through a little bit of a slump. It happens. We understand that, and we're not going to get irrational towards him because, I mean, he's the friggin' captain. Look what he's done. But it's also valid to mention that he's 4 for his last 21, which is not great. Had a 3 strikeout game today. So if Judge goes quiet, it hurts the lineup. They always say the Yankees go with Judge. Well, if that's the case, and that would explain a lot why the offense at times this past week did what they did, or I guess didn't do. Hitting into double plays in big spots. Soto did that again today himself. So those two as of this past week had a bit of a rough one. You have Austin Wells, who actually had himself plenty of good moments this past week. Had a rough one today, going 0 for 5 with 3 Ks. But other than that, you just got to stick with him. He's still got to get the vast majority of the playing time. We've spoken about that. Keep on getting him his looks. Stanton's been still up and down, but yesterday with that huge hit, and then today he had a couple of hits as well. He's still out there doing a pretty good job. I mean, there's days where he takes his offers and has his really ugly swings, of course. We know that this is Stanton, but otherwise, he's just still up and down. That's him. He's 7 for his last 24. Good for 292 in his last 7 games. And sometimes he'll really get a hold of some. We know that's the case for him. Jazz, I mean, we see his ability on the base paths. We saw it today creating his own run like we mentioned before. So he's still done very nicely in that sense. As far as his last 7, he's 9 for his last 25. Still, he's 20 for his last 55, which is good for a 364 average. In that amount of time since becoming a Yankee, he's still batting well into the 300s, and he's still doing his thing. I mean, the one thing about him is that he's still definitely having some growing pains over there at third base. It's just incredible to me that the Yankees have still not learned, after all these years of playing guys out of position, sometimes it is remarkable to me that the Yankees have still not learned their lesson when it comes to this. Because Jazz has bafflingly actually made some pretty stylish plays over there at third at times. But then at other times, it'll just be some routine plays, especially the pop-ups in foul territory, I've noticed. Just balls that he drops. Just plays that are oftentimes made by just about any third baseman out there. So you see this every once in a while, and that's annoying. And it just brings back up all the demons about the Yankees playing guys out of position all these years on a consistent basis, whether it be IKF at short, IKF in the outfield, anybody else in left field that they've tried, any infielder, whether it be IKF himself again, or Oswaldo even, or any other guys who have played out of position through the years. It's just really... How about when they forced Glaber to go to shortstop? It's even though he came up as one, but at the same time, it was already established that he was better at second base in the major leagues. So just a lot of old demons come up with the Yankees playing guys out of position, and you see it again with Jazz here a little bit at times. And it makes you worry about for those very important games if it happens then, but, you just got to keep on keeping on. Keep it moving, how you doing, as I like to say. So, other than that, but at the plate, Jazz is still doing his thing, got no problems here with that. Volpe, he still confuses me. Even in the field sometimes makes a little bit of a mistake on some plays that should be made, but then he'll make some stellar plays like we saw at times today, so it's just really confusing. This last week in the last 7 games, he's been a bit better at the plate, being 9 for his last 25, which is good for a 360 average. Even in his last 15 games overall, 16 for his last 54, good for a 296 average. So, doing a little bit better of late. Got to see that uptrend again, man, because, again, Volpe's too important, and you know the potential. That's why I get so livid when he goes back to his bad habits and goes out there and sucks. That's why I get so mad at that. So, by all means, if you're going to fix it, then fix it. And Verdugo, well, we all know that I wanted something different as of today, with the rosters expanding. He actually had himself a decent game today. In his last 15 games, still 12 for his last 55, which is good for a 218 average. In his last 61 games coming into today, he was batting 197. So we all know the play that Verdugo's been for months now, despite having his good day every here and there, the last 3 weeks or so. Every now and again he'll have a good day. Today was one of them at the plate. Misplayed that ball and left, but, otherwise. At the plate, he'll still choose his days where he does well here and there. But we all know the player he's been for a while now, for literally months. Much more often than not. Had a good day today. But we all know that we would have liked to have seen Jasson Dominguez out there. We know this. And again, I know Verdugo came through with a couple of big hits today, and good for him. You know what? Any opportunity that the players have to shut my big mouth up, I'll gladly go along with it. I will, trust me. But we all know who should be out there today and going forward. If not for whatever reason you could possibly conceive in defense of the Yankees. But we got out there right now, and that's that. That's the best I got with Verdugo, I suppose. And down at first base, obviously we know the situation that we as Yankee fans have been subjected to for months now since Rizzo's been out. We've been talking about Rizzo getting really close with his rehabbing. But up until today, we've had to endure Ben Rice, who at the start was a very intriguing option and had a lot of great moments. Was looking good defensively down there, and with the bat was a lot of fun. Hell, we know that I was at the game that he hit 3 home runs. It was a great time. But that ran stale eventually. The consistent playing time lessened. And the offensive production nearly completely vanished for the better part of the last month and a half or so. And the other side of that coin was DJ LeMahieu. And outside of a pretty good week and a half, around that time the Yankees are playing the Phillies when he single-handedly pretty much won that game for the Yankees. Outside of that little spurt there in that time period, we know what DJ has been. He has looked more washed than just about anybody. Ever. And that's what we've gotten out of first base. The Yankees had gotten historically low levels of production at third base since Rizzo has gone down. And the production wasn't really there even when he was still playing because He started off the season pretty decently, but then it even went way back downward for him before long. So in those last few weeks leading up to his arm injury, all the way through to now, the Yankees have legitimately gotten historically low production from the first base position. So even though Rizzo was doing what he was doing right before he got hurt, it's been so bad there that at least my line of thinking, despite me saying 2 months ago, and it was a while ago, things changed in defense of myself, but even I was saying if Ben Rice keeps things up over there and first base actually finds a way to be productive again, then it's going to be tough to validate Rizzo getting any more chances. But things changed, of course, over a long period of time. And in that time, first base had an extreme amount of time where there was no production. So I found myself in recent weeks, as I have said, saying that with Rizzo on his way back, and there still being no production at first for months now. Months. I mean, you might as well go all in on Rizzo again and see if he has anything left in the home stretch here. Just at the very end, leading up to the end of the season, seeing if we could get anything at all out of first base production. Might as well. You got nothing left to lose. If somebody else was doing great, then you still have that discussion that I was talking about 2.5 months ago. But that's not the case. There has been no discussion for first base for a while now. So things change, you adjust, you pivot. So that's what I've been saying. Rizzo comes back now. You might as well see if after being out for a long time, fresh body, fresh mindset, new beginning, home stretch here, only a few weeks left to play. See if you can get anything out of him in the stretch run here. Had himself a nice day today. Made a really nice play getting the force at third base earlier in the game, which that was a part of the earlier part of the season that had a lot of us baffled. One thing we never had to question with Anthony Rizzo was his defense, and we were seeing some awful defense out of him for most of the beginning of the season. But then you see him make a very nice play defensively to start the game today, which is very encouraging. And he actually had a pretty good day at the plate today. A couple of hits, taking a really nice one down the left field line on an outside backdoor breaking ball. Really like that. So, him coming back today for the first time in months, that's another big roster reveal that we'll go in on again in Yankees news later on. But it's nice to see him back finally. It is, after months of getting nothing out of first base. You see if you could get anything out of him now, and you got something out of him today. So if that happens for the better part of the rest of the schedule, that could be big for the Yankees. So you got the return of that. And you have bench guys like Oswaldo Cabrera, who the Yankees, outside of giving him a look at first base the day before Rizzo's return yesterday, which was interesting, mostly still reluctant to play him, not having him in as a pinch hitter in certain moments that you really would have liked to have seen him, like you saw in a couple of examples this past week once again. And then you have Trent Grisham. I mean, we know that he had his flashes of power every once in a while, but of late that has vanished a bit, and the playing time has gotten less and less, so it makes sense. But that's the offense of late. So again, for the most part, you're seeing a lot of people just taking steps back, especially the two most important guys on the team. But the overall idea of this past week, nonetheless, remains, my friends. You got to get on some sort of a roll here. Stop with the constant starting and stopping. Stop playing down to bad teams. You've got to beat the bad teams. You have to. I know in the eyes of many, especially Yankee haters, there's no winning with that sort of a thing like I mentioned earlier, but you've got to beat the bad teams. You have to. They're a big part of the schedule. You've got to take care of business, especially if you're the Yankees. You came into the month of September, coming into today, with a 1.5 lead, so you're winning in the division. You're ahead. You just got to take care of your own business, especially if you're playing against teams where you should be doing so anyway. That's the overall mindset you got to do. You got to adopt it. You can't be dropping series to teams like the Nationals, bro. You can't be. And this Cardinals game today was freaking embarrassing. I mean, even Phil Bickford coming in after Canely was done. Why is this guy back? You already DFA'd him prior. He comes in, fields a bunt attempt, and then completely throws it away at first base and it goes down the right field line. Like, as if you didn't know that sort of thing would happen with him. He's a crap pitcher. That's why you DFA'd him in the first place. This is what I'm talking about. Just certain decisions being made, not having your best roster out there in the home stretch here. September baseball's here, baby. It's here. Put your best foot forward for it. There's no excuses anymore. There shouldn't be to begin with. But especially because it's September baseball now. Put your best team out there. The Yankees are always talking about championship caliber, best roster, best foot forward. You're not doing that right now going into September. You're not doing that. Jasson's not up here. Phil Bickford's in the bullpen. I could go down even a further list later on when we go over what the roster is right now as of expanding. Multiple names that should not be on this team right now. So just don't be hypocritical, man. Talking about putting the best foot forward, best roster out there, championship caliber roster. Don't say that if you're not going to do it. That's all I'm saying. So since we just did our overall and individual analysis of the team and each of its players and each portion of the team, whether it be the starting rotation, bullpen, lineup, and we're talking about decisions being made, putting your best foot forward, roster moves and decisions that have happened, and even maybe some that are still to come with certain other guys that are about to come off the injured list, even more so than the guys who already have. So let's just go right into Yankees news and keep it going here. I know we've gone into recap the past couple of weeks, but since the discussion is heading more towards the roster and all that good stuff, let's just go right into Yankees news and we'll do recap right after that this past week and get into the further in-depth details of a lot of the things that I've hit on an overall and general basis in the open of the show. But Monday, you started to see the roster moves already begin to take form. You had the Yankees claiming Duke Ellis off of waivers from the Seattle Mariners. This would not be the last time you hear this man's name, especially as of today, so hang tight. In doing this, they transferred Ian Hamilton to the 60-day injured list to make room for Duke Ellis on the 40. But since Ian's already been gone for that long anyway, it doesn't really matter. Him being moved to the 60, it does not affect his return timetable, so saw some people flipping out about that. It literally means nothing. Don't worry about that. And then the remainder of the roster moves take us right to today. And yesterday leading into today, with the rosters expanding and the decisions starting to be made. You had a couple of guys having their rehab assignments moved from AA to AAA, but other than that, the main big news is from yesterday into today. It started with the Yankees optioning Ben Rice and Will Warren back to AAA. Those are both things, if you ask me, that had to happen, because despite my excitement being there for a while back with Ben Rice, he wasn't getting the playing time anyway, and when he was, it just wasn't happening for him anymore, unfortunately. So, especially with the return of Rizzo, it made sense, was completely expected. And Will Warren, say what you want about the kid, whether you like him or dislike him, either way, he cannot pitch again in 2024. You want to give the kid another shot in spring training, see what he's got, maybe give him a shot in the regular season next year, see what he's got then, but either way, the kid's done in 2024. He had a handful of outings, literally all of them were terrible. He's just not ready. He's not. And it's not great because he is in his mid-20s already and he's not ready yet. So I don't know when he will be ready, if not now or maybe next year at the most. But regardless, he cannot pitch again in 2024. It cannot happen. I would sooner take a bullpen game than watch Will Warren pitch again. He just doesn't have it. Just the non-competitive at-bats. I mean, he'll go 0-2 on somebody and then he'll walk them. Happened multiple times yesterday, again, as it has happened so often. And he'll just leave a pitch down there in a big jam and he'll get absolutely slammed for it, like you saw at the 3-run homer. It's just the same thing every start. The stuff moves well, it has great potential, but it's just not there yet. It's not well located, it's not well executed, just nothing. He's not ready. So again, another demotion that had to happen. I feel bad for him. It's a kid. I know, he's still a human being. Got to remember that. But as far as pitching on the Yankees in 2024, it just can't happen again. In light of the Rice news, Rizzo was reactivated from the 60-day injured list. So Rizzo's back, as we had already mentioned before. Good to see, because they need some help. Any help they can get at first base. So, and again, like I said before, off to a good start. They also recalled Ron Marinaccio, Scott Efros, both of whom, unfortunately, had terrible returns today. Terrible. They both got slammed. So they brought them back up for the bullpen. And they also called up Duke Ellis from AAA instead of Jasson Dominguez. Yeah. So, and they also had DFA'd Josh Maciejewski in the bullpen as well to make more room on the 40-man. So, yeah, those were the decisions made with the rosters expanding from 26 to 28. So now, when it comes to the 28-man roster, which is what it now is for the rest of the way out, here is how the roster looks as of right now. Now, this could change in the coming days, in the coming weeks, but this is how things are now as of the game ending and no other moves being announced right after the game being over today. It could happen later tonight, could happen tomorrow, or for the remainder of the week. Things could still change. But as of right now, here is the 28-man roster for the Yankees that we're looking at after the completion of today's game, this afternoon against the Cardinals. As far as the pitching is concerned, you have Garrett Cole, Nestor Cortez, Phil Bickford, Jake Cousins, Scott Effross, Tim Hill, Clay Holmes, Tommy Kahnle, Mark Leiter Jr., Ron Marinaccio, Tim Meza, Carlos Rodon, Marcus Stroman, and Luke Weaver. Those are all the pitchers you have now. So they have 14 now. And after today's game, I could easily say multiple names in that bullpen that I would like to see DFA'd or optioned immediately. Phil Bickford needs to not be on the team. I have no idea what he is doing back up here. No clue. Mark Leiter Jr. The guy had a nice run when he first got here. And he still strikes guys out like he was brought here to do. But on an overall basis for weeks now, the guy's been terrible. That has massively changed, unfortunately. So, Mark Leiter Jr., he's got to get out of the bullpen as well. And as much as I want to give Ron Marinaccio another shot, if he's going to continue to just do this up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down thing, I mean, this guy's more bipolar than the stock market. I mean, it's madness with him. I mean, I know today's just his first time back. Let him have a few more outings, I guess. But that's another potential option again. Tim Meza. I really don't see the worth of some of these guys on the roster. I don't. So a few bullpen decisions could be made still. But otherwise, it's whatever. And then as far as the offense, the other 14, obviously you have Trevi and Wells being the catching duo. Then you have Chisholm, Cabrera, DJ, Rizzo, Glaber, Volpe. That's your infield. Outfielders are now Judge, Soto, Verdugo, Trent, and Duke Ellis, and the DH being Giancarlo Stanton. So, obviously, the couple of changes you want to see there are Verdugo being on the bench and Duke Ellis not being here at all. I don't really know how else to say it. But the fact that Jasson Dominguez is not called up today, again, just surrounding all of the crap from today's game and the weirdness of today, that was all after the utter outrage in the fan base after Jasson, and valid outrage, I might add, of Jasson not being called up today like we all expected him to be. This is a guy who's batting .383 with 3 home runs and an OPS of 1,039 in his last 14 games at AAA. With Verdugo, as I mentioned before, in his last 61, batting .197 with an OPS of 539. So you tell me, and again, he had his couple of hits today, not crapping on him for that, but you tell me which guy sounds like he deserves to be up here. Now, there are a couple of reasons that the Yankees and their sheep will give you for Jasson not being called up today. Some will say, oh, you want him up here because if he had every at-bat every day for the remainder of the year, then he would pass his rookie eligibility for next year and would cost the Yankees a draft pick, even though a frighteningly small amount of their draft picks ever even turn out to be worth a damn. You'll have some people say that it's service time manipulation It's probably the most valid one, even though it is still beyond irritating. And you have some people say that, oh, he's a guy that has to play every day when he's up here. And there's just no room for him. There's no lane for him. He's not going to have any room. There's no place for him on this team.
Quiet!
Yes. Thank you, Johnny Lawrence, for taking the word right out of my mouth. Quiet! I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Even the service time manipulation thing is so annoying. Getting the extra year of control, I get the appeal, but it is now, in the here and now, that Garrett Cole is still trying to correct himself on the course of being back to the Yankees ace that we all know and love. It is right now that Aaron Judge is continuing yet another historic season on the path to yet another 60 home run year. It is now that the Yankees have Juan Soto. All of that is right now in 2024. I'm not thinking of 2030. I'm not thinking of a draft pick that probably won't even become a thing. I'm not thinking about any of that. You ever heard of in the moment? Live in the moment? Has anybody ever heard of that expression? Well, if you haven't, you might want to start bringing yourself up to speed on it right now. Because I'm done listening to all the... Listen, service time manipulation is a thing, and it sucks. I get it's a thing. It's ass. I hate it. Even with that, I'm not thinking about it going forward. Rookie eligibility. You have to have 130 plus at-bats to lose that. For him to be still eligible to be a Rookie of the Year candidate in 2025, the year of control, all that crap. Fine. If you bring him up now... Yeah, I even did the math earlier. That's how nuts these excuses made me. I did the math earlier. This is what people have driven me to. I did the math. So, with today's game being done now, they are 79-58, which means they have played 137 games, which means they have 25 games left in the year, the Yankees do, right? Say average about 4 at-bats a day, right? Maybe sometimes 5. Let's say 4 at-bats for the sake of just some even math right now. Even if you want to take it from today's game, as if he played today, fine, okay, they have 26 games then, coming into today. Because if he were called up for when the roster's expanded, he technically would have played today. So let's take it from that perspective even. So you give him 4 at-bats a game, times 26 games. That means he would have 104 at-bats going forward. If that math stayed even all throughout. Maybe give him a couple more at-bats for those couple of days where he might get 5 at-bats in a game. Maybe. Do that if you want. So it's 104 at-bats. He has 35 at-bats in his career so far. So that would put him maybe 5 at-bats, give or take, over the rookie eligibility threshold. Right? Okay, so now there's this other crazy concept that I would like to introduce to you that could prevent this by just doing it a couple of times. It's something called off days. Now, this might be unprecedented to you, might not have heard of this. It might be earth-shattering, but there's this thing that you can do that the Yankees are very used to doing in times where they especially should not be doing it. It's called a day off, where you don't put somebody in the lineup. It's crazy, I know. Make sure your head does not explode at this revelation. But you could give him, like, a day off. Crazy, right? And since it's so close to that threshold of those 130 career at-bats ruining the rookie eligibility, you would maybe only have to do it like a couple of times. Now, I know you have those people in the fan base who would flip out at him even getting a day off. But especially if the Yankees are taking care of their business, I think we could put up with Alex Verdugo for a couple more times throughout the rest of the month with a couple of off days that you would have to give Jasson in order to keep this intact. It's about at-bats for everything. Rookie eligibility, service time. If you keep it under that 130, and he's got 35 right now, he's already missed a day, so now it would be even less so. So you do 4 times 25, 100 at-bats, which would take him basically right to that threshold. So now you'd maybe even have to give 1 less day off. So at this point especially, it's just a couple of days off you'd have to give the guy. That's it. And to be clear, I don't even really care about any of this when it comes to rookie eligibility or future draft picks or service time manipulation. I'm just trying to invalidate even this excuse. And ranting about it might end up being moot because they could end up calling him up still just in a couple of days. They could do it tomorrow. They could. But what I'm saying is there is really no valid reason to stand in the way of it happening instantaneously today. You let the fans cry if you give them a couple of days off. It's fine. It's just a couple of days. Maybe you do it against the bad teams because those are the freaking games the Yankees should be winning in the first place, with or without Jasson. The rest of the games, especially against the good teams where you could really just use any of the help you could get, he should be here. Why they are so hell-bent on sticking with guys who are factually and statistically worse options, I can't understand it. Why the Yankees fall into these same old habits every year. Is it because the IQ isn't there? I don't know. Is it because they're unserious? I don't know. Could it be both? Maybe. I don't know. Either way, outside of the service time manipulation crap, which again, despite how much I understand is a thing, there's really no reason why this man should not be here with the team today. Especially since he has been coming around in AAA for weeks now. I mean, they called this guy up for one freaking little game against the Tigers in Pennsylvania. I don't know, dude. I don't know. And then while I was watching the Yankee broadcast today, I had to listen to Michael Kay and Paul O'Neill. You know, as much as I like the Yankee booth, I had to listen to them basically go to bat for the Yankees and rationalize why Jasson Dominguez isn't here today. I'm just sitting there like, I don't got to listen to this, bro. I don't have to hear this right now. I don't want to hear it right now.
Quiet!
Literally, that was me listening to them trying to rationalize this crap. Peddling this nonsense. And yeah, even Boone said it himself. It could happen, in a few days, about a week or so, a couple of weeks. No, now. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of just them not doing what they're supposed to do. Mark Leiter Jr., he's been terrible. What's he still doing here? Especially with some of the options you still have down there in AAA. Pretty sure Nick Birdie's still down there. He's still warming up and getting ready. Where is he? I think he should be up here over Phil Bickford, at the very least, even if not Mark Leiter Jr., one of the only 2 trade deadline pickups for the entire pitching help in the bullpen a little bit over a month ago. The other was already DFA'd, and now you have another DFA'able one here. A-plus job there once again, Brian Cashman. 2 bullpen pickups. One was already DFA'd, and the other one should be DFA'd already. Why not take a couple more L's for your pitching scouting? And decision-making overall, even outside of Mark Leiter Jr. Again, why is Phil Bickford here? Why is Jasson not here? Why is Duke Ellis here? Oh, he's a great runner. He's a great runner. Maybe even come in for some solid fielding. You need solid fielding, you got Trent Grisham here already. You need good running, you have Jazz, Volpe. Hell, even freaking Judge isn't a bad runner when he really turns on the jets. I mean, just running? That's why you're not bringing Jasson up? I mean, even if those are legitimate attributes about Ellis, that's the reasoning you're using for not bringing up Jasson? We all know it's service time manipulation and rookie eligibility. Why don't you just freaking say it? Just level with us for once in your lives. I don't know, bro. Just very, very aggravating. And again, he could end up being called up tomorrow, and then this whole segment will have been more or less useless. I get it. And I'm not mad at Verdugo himself over all this. I mean, hell, it's the Yankees front office decision, ultimately. Them, Boone, all of them together, the brain trust. It's all of them making these decisions. So, Verdugo's told that he's still going to be out there. He's going to go out there. That's why he's here. I just don't understand the loyalty to him when, for the vast majority of the time, for months now, he has done what he has done, or I guess not done. And it's not even like he's under contract. He's likely not going to be back next year. So what's with this, loyalty? Some people are saying, oh, yeah, he's Judge's guy. Judge probably has a say in it, too. I mean, listen, I hope that's not true, but I would also like to believe that if it's for something that would be objectively better for the team in the long run, I would like to think that the captain of the Yankees would not be standing in the way of that, just because he and Verdugo are best buddies. I'd like to think that. You can disagree with that if you so wish, but I'd like to think that that's not true. Regardless of the reason you come up with, it's a bad one. And by the way, I'm also just scrolling through Twitter here, and I'm seeing some people saying that Susan Waldman on The Fan in the postgame was calling out Aaron Boone on the urgency that the Yankees are playing with and questioning that. Good for her. Good for her. They deserve to be called out. Between having the August they had against bad teams and playing down to bad teams and just being complacent with the BS that happens with this team day in and day out with just the lack of fundamental baseball at times and not making responsible enough roster decisions, like just the urgency is not there, and apparently she was calling them out on it. Good for her. I'm proud of her. Rest of the media should be doing that too if they aren't already. My guy Brian Hoke was also doing that earlier today, which I really appreciated. I love that. Thank God for guys like Brian Hoke, people like Susan Waldman. Because even Brian today, earlier today, if I could have retweeted the tweet 20,000 times, I would have done it. Even he put out the tweet. I'll read it word for word. The Yankees talk a lot about having a championship caliber roster. Each day that goes by with Jasson Dominguez and the minors, they don't have their best 28 players in the big leagues. Amen. Send tweet. Sit back, kick your feet up, and be proud of yourself for tweeting that, Brian Hoke. Amen. Doesn't get more straightforward and true than that. So perfectly relevant to the Jasson Dominguez discussion. Props to people in the media like Brian Hoke and Susan Waldman for calling the Yankees out on their crap when they deserve it. Just could not believe that Jasson was not called up today for the crap reasons that were given. Duke Ellis is a good runner. Service time. Rookie eligibility. Draft pick. So many thoughts of the future when the time is now. Now! Michael Caine, them talking on the S Network. Oh, he could be ready for, next year. I don't care about 2025 right now. Just the lame reasons being given. I'm so tired of the excuses. Do what's right by the team. This is go time. It's September baseball. And if they do it tomorrow, then kudos to them for that. Bravo. It's the right thing to do. Get that kid up here already. What the hell are we waiting for? I mean, I'd love to see this Yankee lineup already. Just looking at it going up and down. I would love to see this as it is right now for the most part. With the addition of Jasson, Glaber, Soto, Judge, and then he's catching Austin Wells. Then maybe Dominguez, Stanton, Jazz, Rizzo, Volpe. Like, come on, brother. Like, just give me that lineup already. Like, oh my gosh, what are you waiting for? And the more that you wait to bring him up, the less excuse you'll have even to not bring him up. Like, it's just the excuses will go away. Even if you want to use the rookie eligibility thing and the service time and the 130 at-bats, you'd maybe have to give him a day off. That's it. Otherwise, then you really have no excuse to not play him every day and have him be up here. Come on, just do it. Tired of the excuses, man. Playing down to bad teams, the start and stop, not having Jasson up here, having the arms that you have out in the bullpen. It's annoying. Very, very annoying. And I'd be doing even more complaining right now if Will Warren wasn't sent back down, because that's been the real blemish on the starting rotation for weeks now. With Heel going down, but now, fortunately, you have Heel nearing coming back now with his rehab assignment coming to a close, and Clark Schmidt's about to come back, I'd say within the next week or so, give or take. So that'll ease things up and allow Warren to go back down as he was sent back down just yesterday, so that's a good thing. But just keep making better decisions, man. That's what you have to do. Make better decisions. Put your best foot forward. Put the best team out there, the real championship caliber roster, the best you've got. Put it out there. And stop playing down to bad teams. Period. End of story. That's the key to it. The Orioles may not be playing their best baseball, but you've still had plenty of days where you could really take control of things, and who knows, the Orioles could turn it on starting tomorrow for all you know. And if you keep playing this brand of baseball, they're going to make you pay for it. They'll take first place right out from under you before you even knew what the hell happened to you. Be real careful. It's a dangerous game you're playing if you want to go down that road. Playing with fire over here. So that's the news. Biggest outrage, of course, Jasson not being here. We'll see if he's up here at some point before we talk next Sunday. I mean, if he's not up here by next Sunday at the very least, then there really is just no excuse. Because then all the excuses will be gone. The service time manipulation, rookie eligibility, roster room, anyone being better than him or making it a difficult decision, saying he's got no room or no lane here, all of the excuses will be gone. Because by then, 6 more games will have been played and missed by the time we talk next Sunday, after the ending of next Sunday's game against the Cubs. And then at that point, especially even with the at-bats, with the service time manipulation and the rookie eligibility, at that point, you'll be able to play him every single day from then to the end and not have any concerns in that area. So they will literally, for days, you'll not have to have that concern. So then there will legitimately be absolutely no excuses, good or bad, if he's not at least up here by next week. It is something that could change, and it better happen sooner than later. It better. Because what am I going to do if it doesn't? Well, probably absolutely nothing. But I will be livid, and I will be back here yelling and screaming about it next week because it's just not the right thing to do. There is nothing in this world, almost nothing that drives me more insane than hypocrisy. And if you're going to be the Yankees out here touting putting your best foot forward, championship caliber roster, putting the best players you have out there, yet you refuse to call up Jasson Dominguez for no good reason, it's quite literally hypocrisy. Because you're not doing what you're claiming you're doing. And even more so than that, they're in denial about that because they'll think that it's totally fine. Heads out of your asses, boys. Out of them. Get them out. Let's get to work. Make better decisions. Put your best foot forward. But before we end Yankees news real quick, guys, just a couple of quick updates for people who are yet to come back, on their way back, things like that, like I mentioned before. Just a couple of things. We know Luis Heel and Clark Schmidt are on their ways back. Heel did apparently not look good in his outing today, so and this is making me a little uncomfortable. We were talking about last week that Heel could possibly find himself in the bullpen when he comes back. I doubt that's what the Yankees will actually do, but it might actually help. Put him out there for a little bit. We'll see what they choose to do with that. Just for the sake of the stretch run here and his arm and the way he's looked. I think that's the best thing, but I don't think that's what they're going to do. But we'll see. We know that Schmidt's close. Obviously, within the next week and a half, I expect to have him back. Apparently, Ian Hamilton had a little bit of a back problem that they don't really think is a big thing at all. But hopefully it doesn't throw him off too badly. That's really annoying. Hamilton's just been marred with injuries, which is unfortunate because in his couple of outings in his rehab assignment, he was looking really good. See what happens with that. John Birdie's going to get more rehab games this coming week, so he's still working his way back. Trevino's still down in the minors himself doing his rehab assignments on the 29th. His assignment moved from AA to AAA, so he's still working his way back slowly but surely, as is Cody Poteet. That's really the last of all of the pitcher updates and overall updates as far as guys still working their ways back. So Hamilton's working his way through it. As I briefly mentioned before, Nick Birdie's still down there. I don't know what the deal with him is. I guess they're just still building him back up, per se. Don't really know. But Poteet is still continuing his rehab assignment as well that he began back on the 20th. But Cashman was saying that they expect him to be like a depth piece later on in the year. I would just throw Poteet in the rotation at this point because with Luis Heel being a little bit of a wild card, we don't know what he's going to be when he returns. And yeah, I suppose Schmidt will take that 5th spot, but yeah, I mean, I would just evaluate pitcher performances going down the wire here, especially if, Nestor's got quite a bit of innings on his arm as well. I know he was having a few good starts in a row before today, but you might consider throwing Poteet in there for him for a couple of outings right before the end of the year. An outing or two, maybe. Just have Nestor skip one rotation through, perhaps. I mean, might not be a brutal idea because they were even talking about it today. Like, if the Yankees are even considering still throwing him out there every 5 days right through to the end because he missed so much of last year due to injury himself. I don't know, might be something to consider. But I definitely don't think that Poteet should go unused for the rest of the way out because when the Yankees did call on him, he got the job done. So that's all I'm saying. But otherwise, that is just about it as far as the remainder of the injury updates, my friends. So, while talking about going forward, why don't we go back and talk about this unfortunate last week of Yankees baseball, details-wise. Going back to the start of the National Series and catching all the way up to today. It's weeks like this where I hate doing this. Let's just breeze right through it. Yapping Yankees time machine back to Monday, the 26th. Let's go. All right, so Monday, one of this past week's few good days. Nestor started this game, obviously, and as I said before, very nice outing for him. 6 2/3, 1 run, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, only 4 hits. Did get hit hard a few times, including when Judge, again, as I mentioned before, made that incredible home run robbing catch that resulted in a double play, doubling off the runner at first, which was incredible. But otherwise, other than the defenders having to make a couple of really nice plays, Nestor still had himself a pretty solid start. And the offense, well, they did enough to get it done on this particular day. Gleyber actually started off the game with a leadoff home run, his 12th home run of the year. DJ got a sac fly in the top of the 4th. Wells had a solo shot in the top of the 6th, followed by a DJ LeMahieu sac fly, so it was 4-0 at that point. And then up 4-1, Jazz Chisholm Jr. hit his 21st home run of the year, his 9th as a Yankee already. So that made it 5-1. And the final score would be 5-2. So that was awesome. Wells going deep once again. Gleyber the same, starting the game. And Jazz. So it was 5-2. Nice victory. Bullpen held it down. Clay got his 28th save. All good. Unfortunately, that expression would not be able to be used for the remainder of the series because the offense disappeared. And the pitching gave up a few too many for said quiet offense. Tuesday, the Yankees would fall 4-2. Cole pitched this game. Definitely didn't deserve a loss, although he's had much better outings in his life, but definitely didn't deserve an L for this. 5 innings, 3 runs only, 1 walk, 6 hits, and 7 strikeouts. Did give up a couple of home runs that he shouldn't have given up, that's for sure. And Tim Mays also gave up an unearned run, thanks to Jose Trevino. But other than that, that's all the pitching really gave up, so not too much. The remainder of the bullpen outside of that, and Tim Hill and Phil Bickford, shockingly, managed to keep the Nationals off the scoreboard. But again, the offense couldn't get anything going until the very end of the game, which is when they scored both of their runs, actually. When a run came home on a Judge double play, and then a Volpe ground out. So those were the 2 runs that they managed to push across. And they did manage to get a little bit of a rally started in that top of the 9th, but they couldn't get the job done. Jazz actually started off the inning with a double, and then on defensive indifference, they let Jazz take 3rd. That's when Volpe drove him in. And then Austin Wells and Verdugo each got hits, but then DJ and Gleyber couldn't do anything after that to capitalize. So they fell short, 4-2. And they would lose 5-2 on Wednesday after Rodon once again allowed his damage early, just had nothing working in the first inning, kept that going into the second inning, and then allowed another run in the 4th inning. So Rodon with another bad outing like the one he had a couple of times ago. Not great and annoying to see, especially when it just was another one of those starts where he was obviously giving up all that damage early and he just didn't have anything. I mean, for a while, he couldn't even get anybody out. How many times have we said that Rodon has done that of late? It's a shame because after a start on the 17th against the Tigers when he took his first step back in some time, he came out on the 23rd. Granted, it was against the Rockies, yeah, but 6 shutout innings again. Thought he was right back on track, and then he does crappy against the Nationals again. So, not great. That factored in with the fact that the offense was dead silent once again, with the exception of Jazz hitting a home run when they were down 2-0 for his 22nd and most recent home run of the year. That was the 9th with the Yankees that I mentioned before. So, he had got them on the board, got them within 1. And then after that, that was when the Nationals started to pile on a little bit. Ultimately, it was 5-1 Nationals, and then after Judge got an RBI single in the top of the 5th to make it 5-2, nothing else really happened for the remainder of the game as far as offense. They had yet another rally in the top of the 9th, similarly to Tuesday. But again, they couldn't get anything done. Volpe, leadoff single. Jazz Chisholm walked. Waldo hit a screaming line drive to center field, but it was no good. Then it was a double steal, but they couldn't even get any runs in off of that because Verdugo and Glaber would again not come through. Very similarly again to the night before. So they would fall 5-2 and drop a series to the Washington Nationals. That's right. Just not ideal whatsoever, as we've spoken about for the vast majority of the show. Thursday, they were off. Friday, they would start action against the Cardinals. Friday was the only enjoyable game and positive game out of this entire thing. Stroman, like I mentioned before, not with a fantastic outing. The fantastic part was the amount of innings he managed to pitch. First time in a long time he went that deep into the game. 7 innings, and only 2 runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts. Those are all really good. The 9 hits, not great. So he actually did allow quite a bit of traffic on the bases because of that, but still, for the most part, kept them off the scoreboard. Was not a bad outing at all, and earned his 10th victory of the year on top of that. Other than that, Jake Cousins just allowed a run of his own. He's been weird of late. And Canely and Holmes pitched after that. Holmes ended up getting his 29th save of the year. Scoring-wise, Volpe got a sac fly in the bottom of the 2nd. And then after the Cardinals had actually taken a 2-1 lead, Juan Soto got an RBI double. And then Austin Wells got his first of 2 two-run homers on this particular night. So it was 4-2. Cardinals inched closer after a solo shot by Arenado, but then that was when Wells hit his second 2-run shot, his 12th homer of the year, to make it 6-3, and that was the final. So Friday kicked off a good start to the series, but then the rest would go downhill quite quickly, as we have well established. Yesterday, Will Warren started, and again, like I mentioned before, he was crap. 4 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Seemed like a bunch of times he was ahead 0-2 or 1-2, and he would either allow them to reach via walk or hit nearly every time, and eventually in the 3rd inning, he paid for it. That is a similar trend to what we have been seeing in the vast majority of his outings, and it is why he cannot pitch again in 2024 if anybody in this Yankee organization has half a functioning brain. So, not a good final line once again by him. Mark Leiter Jr. also stunk. 2 runs allowed, only 1 earned, in partial fairness to him because of a Wells throwing error. I say partial because he really doesn't deserve much fairness because, again, of late, he has absolutely stunk. At the beginning, even with the couple of runs he gave up in his first few weeks, he was still striking a lot of guys out, being put into big situations and getting out of some of them, but of late, it's just been... it's been really bad. Like I said before, another big win for Brian Cashman in the pitchers department. Got De Los Santos and him thinking it was enough for pitching, specifically the bullpen, and has not worked out of late, to say the least. So, Mark Leiter Jr. at this point, quite DFA-able, and at that point, the Yankees might as well, with the exception of Jazz Chisholm Jr., might as well have just stayed completely idle at the trade deadline. Completely idle as far as pitching, totally, because they're the only ones they picked up. So, that's just fantastic. Love that. In his last 5 appearances, he's allowed 4 runs. You just love that. And back on the 18th, he didn't even record an out. Gotta love it. So, again, like I mentioned before, Leiter Jr. has been crap, was again in this outing. But either way, despite the Yankees grabbing an early lead on a Volpe RBI single in the bottom of the 2nd, that's when Will Warren just crapped on everything. And the Yankees tried to come back in the bottom of the 8th. Volpe drove in another run with an RBI single in the infield. And Stanton came up pinch hitting, and he hit a double that missed a game-tying grand slam, as I said earlier in the show, by a matter of feet, off the top of the wall, which stinks, but also great job by Stanton coming through it all there, let alone with something that big. I did not expect the ball to carry that far, given where it was hit off the bat, but still incredible. Another credit to him just for how freaking strong he is. But nonetheless, that did clear the bases, making it 6-5 Cardinals. So the Yankees, after being dead for the vast majority of the game, were actually making things interesting finally. But right after that, Mr. Verdugo came up and hit his 97,000th ground ball to second base, and nothing else happened, even for the remainder of the game, even after Soto got a double in the bottom of the ninth, and Judge was intentionally walked. It was a battle between Helsley and Austin Wells, and Helsley threw him breaking ball after breaking ball after breaking ball until finally Wells gave in and struck out. So, another almost comeback. Close but no cigar. So another loss there. And today's game, I already spoke about it before. Need we really go through it again? Just really sucked. Down 1-0, came back. Stanton laser shot off Michaelis, and then Jazz created his own run on the bases, brilliantly so. Then everything came apart in the top of the fourth, and the rain came through. Down 5-2 at that point, adding on another couple in the top of the fifth did the Cardinals, making it 7-2, thanks to the efforts of Scott Efros, who just got back up here today. Brutal reappearance by him, recording 2 outs, giving up 3 hits and giving up 2 runs. Ultimately on quite the shot for a 2-run homer, and just not a good appearance by him. Yankees crept closer, though, again, mounted a nice 2-inning comeback, made it 7-7, and then everything fell apart in the 7th inning when you sprinkle in Jake Cousins not throwing strikes, Tommy Kahnle getting slammed, leaving pitches right down the middle, sprinkled in by a little bit of bad defense. So, down by 5, come back, down by 5, once again, and then in the top of the 9th, because why not? Why not? Cardinals add on a couple more, make it 14-7 off of Ron Marinaccio, who also just came back up, like I mentioned earlier, gave up a 2-run shot of his own. The stadium was really restless and booing a lot at this point, rightfully so. Final score, 14-7. Another absolutely brutal game. Losing yet another series to a mid or bad team. What can I tell you? That's the Yankees these days. And for the better part of the last couple of months, they've had a very mediocre record. But this past week, just another week, losing a couple more inexcusable series, especially the Nationals one. Going forward, got another sub-500 team coming up, but the Yankees are hitting the road. They're going to Texas, like I said before. Tomorrow night's game, they do not have off tomorrow on Monday the 2nd. It'll be at 8:05 p.m. Eastern. Cole will be taking the mound for the Yanks. Tuesday, 8:05 p.m. once again in Texas. Rodon will be taking the mound against Andrew Heaney. Another lefty, even though Andrew Heaney's Andrew Heaney. We know this. But we also know how the Yankees are against left-handed pitchers, unfortunately. So, see how that goes. See if Rodon gets back on track once again. I've probably never seen a more hit-or-miss starter in a while for the Yankees and Carlos Rodon. We'll see. Wednesday, 8:05 p.m. Eastern as well. Marcus Stroman against Nathan Eovaldi. And that game will be on Amazon Prime Video, so we'll see how the Yankees handle yet another sub-500 team before things will start to get a bit more challenging against a Cubs team and a Royals team, so on and so forth for the remainder of September. But for the sake of staying on course, next weekend starting on Friday, starting a 3-game weekend set in Chicago, it will be the Cubs at Wrigley Field. And strangely enough, all 3 of these games, including Fridays, which is usually always a night game for everybody, all 3 of these games at Wrigley Field between the Yankees and Cubs are to be played at 2:20 in the afternoon. Yeah, I know, super weird, but Friday afternoon's game, 2:20 at Wrigley Field. No pitching matchups announced for any of these games as of yet. Friday the 6th, 2:20 p.m. Eastern. Same for Saturday the 7th and Sunday the 8th when we shall yap again, 2:20 p.m. Eastern in Chicago against the Cubs. So that's the next week. You got another losing team in the Rangers and a team that has just started to pick it up of late in the Chicago Cubs. We'll see how the Yankees fare and the decisions that they make or don't make along the way. But that is what has happened as far as in-depth details this past week, my friends. Obviously not too much good, and what is ahead. So that's all for Weekly Recap. What say you? We move on to the end of the show, as always, the social media segment. As we head into September, and we are now in the home stretch of things for the season, final month of the year, I can't believe I'm saying that, thought it appropriate to answer this question, especially because it is a hot topic of discussion as the Yankees continue to not do what they're supposed to do, and are very fortunate that the Orioles continue to not play the best brand of baseball themselves. So I figured it'd be an appropriate question to ask with September starting, and with only 25 games left to go in 2024. It's insane to even say that. Got another open-ended question for you this week. With September being upon us going into the final month, give me your predictions. Who will officially finish in first place in the American League East in the end. Me personally, I think it depends a lot on the decisions the Yankees make or don't make within these next couple of weeks. If they wait much longer than they should to bring up Jasson, and if they continue to leave guys in the bullpen that shouldn't be out there, I think it's very possible that the Orioles will win first place. But if the Yankees do what they're supposed to do, they bring Jasson Dominguez up here and actually put out the best roster that they have of their best 28 guys like they claim that they want to do and that they already do. Crazy, I know. Then they could very well win first place themselves. As they continue to be in first place, which they are still officially in control of as of right now, as I always like to say, they are still in control of their own destiny. And if they don't lose the games that they should win, then everything should be okay because they're in control right now. It's different if you're not the one in control because then you have extra work to do. But the Yankees, as of today, still by a half a game, have the best record in the American League. So all they got to do is take care of business where they should. This upcoming series against the Rangers, another sub-500 team, is another example of that. They got to take care of business the entire month, but especially against the bad teams, which we have well established in this show and many others in the recent past, they have not done that. Got to do it. So it's really up to them, to be honest. I'll put some trust in them and say that they will make the decisions that have to be made at the risk of myself and my sanity. I will say that within the next week, they will make the decisions that they should to steer this roster back on course and do what is best for the team. They will control their destiny and get the job done. I'm going to put my neck out there and say the Yankees will win. But because of the Yankees' habits occasionally and tendencies to not do the right thing by their team and be a bit complacent with their urgency or lack thereof, I will not have a problem with anybody who doesn't believe that they will win first place, saying that the Orioles will win. Can't really have a problem with that because the Yankees have been victims of that mindset for many of the past few years. I'm just putting my neck out there and putting some trust in the team at the risk of my own self. So that's what I'm saying, but it is really dependent on the decisions that they make or don't make with the roster going forward and how they continue to do against bad teams. But since it's the home stretch here in September, just against every team in general, you got to win. Let's see what some other people have to say. Let's start with @Kristen_Marie NY saying the Yankees. All right, some trust over there. Then we have @Valeria _Strega, sorry if I mispronounced your name, saying Yankees. Start off with 2 Yankees finishing in first place predictions. Okay. @Cashman Sucks NYY. Always agree with that, my friend. Saying Baltimore. August was supposed to be an easy month on paper, and going 14-12 in August will end up costing the Yankees. I hope not, but as I said, you're not wrong. There are a lot of things the Yankees did that could end up costing them, whether it be the last game before the All-Star break in Baltimore, the way they disgracefully lost that, August being a massive one for sure. They're underperforming in August and losing against teams they should not be losing against at all, and a lot of the losses being embarrassing against said bad teams, especially the one against the White Sox. It could very well cost them, but again, they're in control right now. They still, as of this moment, have possession of first place and the best record in the American League, even if it's only by about a half a game or a game. Still have the best record in the AL. It's up to them. Really, it really is up to them. Rebecca @PeaceNowForLife says, my prediction is the Yankees win the East by a very slim 1-game margin. It'll be a fight to the end, but the Yankees will prevail and go into the playoffs on a hot streak. I hope so, Rebecca, because the Yankees have been, as I said before, they have been completely opposed to getting on any sorts of streaks. And even if they do win as many as just 3 in a row, we just spoke about before when we were going through the game since the Angels series, even when they have won 3 in a row, in that particular case that I spoke of before, they'll lose 3 in a row right afterwards and just completely undo it. So even if they do win 3 in a row, they'll just find a way to still be just average after that or just undo those 3 in a row they just won. They're just really allergic to winning streaks of late. I don't know what the deal is, but they just can't get on any sort of a roll. It's the start and stop, like I was talking about earlier in the show. So Getting in on a hot streak, I mean, a lot of people will say that's the key to the playoffs. Get hot at the right time. It's a crapshoot, blah, 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 blah. So that'd be ideal. But that'd certainly be a close finish. One game. Can't remember the last time that happened. It was that close. That'd be wild. But another Yankee prediction. At Laura_Icemont, my buddy Laura says, the Yankees. It'll be a close race with the Orioles, but I still believe in our team. I do too, to a degree, if they make the right decisions and take care of business against the teams they should. A lot of it's dependent and relying upon other factors, but it's the way it is. That's the position they put themselves in. At BanRiseKing01 says, I think the Yankees will win the East. It'll be so close, but they'll win it. And I don't trust Baltimore because they had a chance to bury us and they didn't. The Yankees take advantage and win the division by a full game. Well, that's the thing, too. You hope that the Orioles keep on playing not their best brand of baseball, for lack of a better term, as I've been saying, because they really have not been playing great baseball either. That's what I said before, when it could be just a perspective, a matter of perspective. Glass half full, glass half empty. The Yankees could very well be in control right now if they played just a little bit better than just mediocre baseball, but so could the Orioles, and they haven't. They could have buried each other. They didn't. They're still close, and anything's possible. It's dependent on your perspective, as we have said. So it's interesting, but yeah, if the Yankees are going to win, I think if either one wins, it's going to be close. But how close? I mean, a lot of people saying just as close as one little game. It's interesting. At Bart Acachello 1 saying Yanks and O's finish with 94 wins each. Orioles take the division with better head-to-head record. That would suck. But again, like I said, that's where a game like the one before the All-Star break comes in, where the Yankees brutally lost in that ninth inning, inexcusably, with those errors by Volpe and Verdugo. That's where something like that would come in. If it's to come down to head-to-head, you got to think about a game like that, especially if the Yankees can't complete the sweep against the Orioles when they play them in the second-to-last series of the season. That series is going to be huge as far as head-to-head, and obviously the standings overall, too. But if they can't sweep them and get the head-to-head advantage, you start to think about a game like the one before the All-Star break that they really should have won. So if that happens, and a game like the one before the All-Star break is going to sting badly. At Eric Cop 21 says the Orioles. Doesn't mean they'll win the pennant, but the Yankees will not win the East after failing to take advantage of their August schedule. Yeah. Playing down to bad teams is not it. It's not the thing to do. Spencer, my good buddy Spencer at Musician DMD. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Spencer said, just as I predicted prior to opening day, the Yankees will win the division. They will have a very successful postseason. The Yankees showed true character by rebounding in the wake of adversity in the middle of the summer. They are tested and ready. I don't know, man. August was a rough one to be that optimistic, Spence. I mean, listen, if you're that optimistic, more power to you, and I hope you maintain that. That's awesome. I'm not denying the Yankees will make the playoffs or maybe even win the division fully. I'm not denying that. But it's times like this past week and their overall record the last couple of months, especially against teams they should be beating pretty easily, it concerns me. And the decisions they make, too, that result in them not putting their best foot forward. It discourages me and frustrates me. They could go all the way. There's no team that's going to run away with anything this year. There's no team that's absolutely unbelievable and significantly better than another, in my opinion. There's a good chance that no team even wins 100 games this year for the first time in a long time. Very possible. So, they can do it if they want to. Like I said, it's within their own hands. Make the right decisions, get the job done when you have to. It's all it's a matter of. The division, and thereby even the World Series, is in their hands. Question is, what are they going to do about it? In August, we didn't see them do much about it. Not much good. Not too much. Depends on the day. Because again, you don't know what you're going to get out of these guys from day to day. That's the problem. It's very unpredictable, which makes people very unsettled and disconcerted. So, it's tough. It's complicated. All right, let's finish off the last two now that we're over an hour 40 in. Let's put a bow on this Yapping Yankees episode. First up is my girlfriend at Vic Salimo. And she says, unfortunately, the Orioles, the Yankees are too inconsistent. Yeah, they are. That is definitely a point that we have emphasized for some time now, not knowing what you're going to get out of this team from one day to the next. And it's an issue. Literally just got done saying that. So, you're right, babe, and that would be a reason to have someone not be as confident, and that's valid. You just don't know what you're going to get. It's unfortunate. All right, let's finish up with my mom at Julia Gina Scudero, and she says, "Hi, Mike. Hey, Mom. This is a hard question in that I want it to be the Yankees, but the truth is our pitching staff has sucked. We lost the series to the Nationals and now the Cardinals today, while our offense kicked ass and managed to come back for the team. 7 runs should be enough to win a game. Today they gave up 14 runs. Especially the bullpen. This has happened too much with them. They suck. So sadly, it will be the Orioles. Thanks, Boone, and everyone else for these great roster moves. You suck." Our poor Yankees worked so hard to come back for the bullpen to blow games over and over again. I think this reply is worthy for yet another Johnny Lawrence sound effect, one of the new sound effects. Another repeat on behalf of my mom to the Yankees.
Screw you.
There it is. Oh, God. That's going to be a really nice sound effect going forward. I'm so glad I got a hold of that one. And even the quiet one.
Quiet!
Oh, my God. Cobra Kai, another favorite show of mine. Those are a couple of really awesome additions to the arsenal there. But yeah, Mom, listen, everything you said is very valid, similar to what Victoria, me, and many others have said about the Yankees, their inconsistency, losing games that they shouldn't. The bullpen, despite being good for most of the past week, has had far too many instances of this where they blow games that they shouldn't, so that's completely true. Yeah, it's very annoying to watch. It's very annoying to watch this team do what they've done, especially against bad teams, playing down to them constantly, just starting and stopping. Not winning the games that they should, not getting on a roll, just not keeping the foot on the gas, start and stop. That's the theme. And that overall mindset and these recent actions of the Yankees going back weeks now, it's why I named the episode what I did. Thought it was very appropriate. But speaking of said episode, I think it's safe to say that that is all for today's episode, number 233 of Yapping Yankees today, my friends. I think I hit on just about everything I possibly could. So, I think now's a good time to end before I end up going off on another tangent. So, please remember to, in the meantime, to follow me on all social medias if you do not already, my friends. Facebook fan page, Mike Scudero NY. My Twitter or X is at Mike Scudero. And my Instagram is at Mike Scuds 97. Please remember to subscribe to Yapping Yankees on all 4 platforms it is available on if you have not already. That is YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Like, subscribe, comment wherever you may be listening. And if you've missed any of the past Yapping Yankees episodes, you can listen to any Yapping Yankees episode that ever was, going back over 5 years, back to episode 1, all the way up to today on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And episodes 34, all the way up to today's episode. Those are all available on YouTube. In case you'd rather listen on there, more power to you. But once again, I thank you 3,000 for listening to me yap today, my friends. I have been your host, Mike Scudero, as always, and we shall yap again next Sunday, September 8th, when I come at you with episode 234 of Yapping Yankees. But until then, guys, as always, hang in there, be patient. Please stay safe in this crazy world out there. Look out for your loved ones. Go ahead and kick life's ass this week. And for those of us who have off from work tomorrow for Labor Day, well, enjoy the day off. Happy Labor Day, everybody. Take the day to kick back, relax, and hit that good old reset button. Start fresh on Tuesday. As far as the Yankees, well, get more consistent. What can I tell you? Take care of business against the teams you should. Take matters into your own hands with the division, with everything else. In this final month stretch here, in the final 25 games, make the decisions that result in you putting the best version of your team out there and get the damn job done amidst doing all of that. That's all I can really say. Maybe even try winning a few games in a row. God forbid. Maybe a few in a row and then not immediately undoing it afterwards. That would be pretty sick. So let's give that a shot. Starting with another sub-500 team right away tomorrow in the Rangers. And maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to be a little bit more optimistic come next Sunday. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? So, until then, my friends, as always, thank you so much for listening, especially if you made it this far all the way to the end. Love you lots, take care, and let's go Yanks.